only a green sign, right?
I don't know if it's green.
Steven, join.
Going on around everything in here. When you're that talented, you can make
What?
Oh, Tony, I'm sorry.
The school here in Liverpool. Feeling a bit suicidal today, obviously. Yeah. It's not going to be your day, lads, is it? On the right-hand side, the playing field of the Liverpool College. This is one of the schools Brian Epstein attended as a child. He had a private education because he came from a very wealthy background. This is also one of the schools he was expelled from. On the left, we've got all the rooftops that were featured in the Free as a Bird video. This video made over 100 references to Beatles songs. I've watched it numerous times and I'm still trying to work out the 100. On the left-hand side, ladies and gentlemen, now here's a bit of a bonus for us today, because we're looking at Mr. Charlie Lennon. This is John Lennon's uncle, his last remaining relative here on Merseyside. Charlie is 79 years old and he lives in this area. We're going to see if we can get the lift. Got a lift, Charlie?
Hey, Jill. What is it? Jill. Well, we're dropping at the top, yeah? Dropping at the top.
Sir Paul McCartney, where's he, Charlie? Should be Sir Charlie Lennon. Ladies and gentlemen, John Lennon's uncle. Come on now, don't be starting off, you're making trouble. Get yourself sat down. You're going to sing along with us, Charlie. Is it them, Charlie? Oh. Fish and chips, Penny Lane cakes. And you'll also see a shop to Messrs. Strange and Strange Consultants. And I often wonder if this is where Paul got the words of the song from. Very strange. We're going to go along now. We're going to go along now and see if there's anybody in Penny Lane going to stop and say hello.
I took the audio out of this part because they are playing Penny Lane from the Beatles, and obviously I can't put that in here, but as we were listening to Penny Lane, we were driving by the street where the song was written about. So saw the barber shop and different things mentioned in the song, which was kind of cool to actually look around at the street while listening to the song. If you ever do take the trip, it looks like it is 25 pounds now. When we went, it was 8 or 9 pounds, so it's gone up quite a bit like everything else has. Again, the videography isn't the best, but we were pretty young, sitting on a crowded bus with a over-the-shoulder camcorder.
Selling poppies from a tray, but you're also not going to see the bank manager who doesn't wear a mac in the pouring rain, because you're seeing Penny Lane beneath blue suburban skies today. And on the left, we'll be able to see the barber shop.
All right, so again, they started playing a little bit of Penny Lane, so I have to take the audio out. But we are coming up to the barber shop that's mentioned in the song. You can see it's coming into view right there. It's today called Tony Slavin. And there's some laughing on the bus because the tour guide mentioned that there's somebody in there getting their hair cut as we were stopped outside, and you'll be able to see the barber inside start to kind of wave and dance around a little bit. So everybody got a chuckle out of that on the bus. And the version of Penny Lane that we were listening to on the bus, it was a Paul McCartney solo live version. Just a little bit of color there for what I'm taking out. They also had some pictures in the window of the Beatles, which I believe whoever is filming, I think it was my brother, will try to zoom in on. Yeah, right there. And then traffic picked up again, and we continued on with the rest of the tour. I'll let you get back to the audio from the video.
Well, that was Penny Lane, very much in Paul's ears and in his eyes. And now we're going to leave it behind and head towards an area of Liverpool called Wavertree. His family. The family lived in this house till he was 6 years old. And then they moved to an area of Liverpool called Speke. That's where our airport is. While they were living in Speke, George passed the scholarship to attend the Liverpool Institute. He used to get on the bus every day, and every day there'd be another boy on the bus in the same school uniform. They got chatting and became good friends. This boy was called Paul McCartney. Paul was already in the band with John, and he promised George to introduce him to John, which he did. But John and George, well, there was 18 months age difference between them, and John didn't want this kid hanging out with the band. But eventually Paul persuaded John to listen to George play. He couldn't help but be impressed. Okay, kid, you're in. They played together. They never had a regular drummer. And then they found out they'd got to play a gig in Hamburg. As long as they had a 5-piece band, they needed a drummer quickly. George remembers when he was in a band with his brother Peter called the Rebels. They used to go to a place in Aintree, a club called the Morgue. And that's where they met up with a boy called Peter Best who had a drum kit. He took the lads down to the Casbah Club. They held dope in it. And while they were there, they auditioned Pete. 2 weeks later, they went to Hamburg. Of course, history has now told us what happened. Stuart died, and Pete was replaced by Ringo. The 5 became a 4, and the drummers changed. But there are our 4 lads as we know them. John, Paul, George, and Ringo. George grew up, always a very private, a quiet boy. He fell in love with an actress on the Beatles' first film, A Hard Day's Night, called...
No, this is not on the bus, but that was Charlie. He lives in that area. We took Charlie on board, and then as we're going over the bridge, I don't know if any of you noticed, on the left is a fruit vegetable shop that Peter Best has got an interest in. There was Peter Best coming out of the fruit shop. We got to the top of Penny Lane, and there was Henry Epstein, Brian Epstein's nephew, coming out of the Penny Lane bistro. And everybody was like, by then going, oh yeah. I was like, I'm sorry, but that's what's happened. It just happened. You know, they live in Liverpool. They live a normal life here. And if you bump into them, you're lucky. It's great. You know, my grandmother said, out of bad will come good. Well, we're late and things have gone wrong. But the goodness is we've got Mr. Lennon on board.
The cabinet making business, he worked long and hard hours. His eldest son Harry came along and took the business over and made it even more successful. There were furniture shops all over Liverpool. Nearly everyone in Liverpool had a piece of Epstein furniture. My grandmother had a bedroom suite from the Epstein shop which she polished religiously every day, and none of us kids were allowed to touch it. But this is where the Epsteins lived, at number 197 Queen's Drive. As you can see, it's a beautiful home. Harry married a lady from Yorkshire called Malka Heyman. Malka is the Hebrew word for queen, so consequently all of her life she was known as Queenie Epstein. They lived here and they had 2 sons. Clive was the youngest and he did everything. He'd fallen in love with another man. At the age of 5½, John saw the argument go on between his parents. His daddy went away, he thought he'd never see him again. Julia and Bobby Dyken set up home together. They both worked, and it was difficult to look after this little boy all day, so he used to go and stay with his various aunties. Don't forget, Julia was one of 5 girls. He seemed to be spending an awful lot of time with her elder sister Mimi and her husband George. They lived here in Woolton, a very middle-class area. George ran the dairy that serviced the whole of the area. Mimi would towel down, have a drink, and he stood there waiting to spot Ivan. Ivan spotted him. Macca, come on in. Did you see us play? Weren't we great? John, this is me mate Macca from school. The two teenage teddy boys didn't speak. Paul decided to let the guitar do the talking for him. He took it off his back, and the first thing he did with the guitar, he tuned it in. John was impressed. John couldn't tune a guitar. But the next thing Paul did made John laugh to himself. He turned the guitar upside down. John walked away. Ha! This fella's no good. He can't even hold the guitar properly. But what John didn't know was that Paul plays left-handed. Paul started to play. He played two songs for John on that day, 20 Flight Rock by Eddie Cochran and Bebop and Lula by Gene Vincent. Two of John's favourite songs. And Paul knew all the words. Wow, this fella's great.